Good evening and welcome to this edition of In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. I'm Eric Marsh, Executive Director of Whitewater Community Television, and very happy that you're able to join us for this program. Haven't had to do this for a year, but a new year has turned on us, so I have to ask, are you registered to vote? We are beginning the first of a 3-year cycle of elections. Almost half of our Wayne County government offices are up for election this year, as well as your District 6 congressional race. There'll be a race for your state senator. So please, we'll ask you now and we'll remind you, make sure that you are registered to vote. We will candidates are just starting to actually file for offices. That opened up yesterday on the 10th. That will go until February 9th, and after that point, we'll then know how many preliminary races that there are, primary races that there are going to be, and we'll figure out from there when our In Focus program will become In Focus Candidate Forums. We'll again work with our partners at the Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce to bring you conversations with the candidates in contested races in the primary, and of course, we'll be here on primary and general election night, giving you a chance to find out what the results of the local races are. We're obviously everyone sitting here waiting to figure out what tomorrow morning's weather is going to bring to us, but we will keep you updated on all 3 of our channels, WGTV Channel 11, WETV Channel 20, and WCTV Channel 21, with any delays, closings, cancellations that may come about from the weather. Later on during this hour, we'll talk with Sheila Armstead, a member of the faculty here at Indiana University East and someone who has been very involved in the Martin Luther King Jr. breakfast that is heading into its 22nd year, I believe, this year, coming up on Monday morning. We'll find out about that and also let you know some of the other things that are happening here. But we're going to start off, I always get, whenever I have gentlemen in uniform sitting here, I always get a little intimidated. I put away all the snide remarks and everything else. And we are very happy to have Richmond Fire Chief Purcell with us. Thank you very much for agreeing to be here.
Thank you for inviting me, Eric.
Jerry Purcell has never been part of the In Focus program. I thought about that. We've had Sheriff Kappa in a couple of times. We've had Chief Branham in for various things. We've had the mayor in, council members in. Talk about public safety. We've never had a chance to talk about the fire department, and that, for that, I apologized.
No apology necessary, but it's great, and it's an honor to be here, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to discuss the fire department.
Had a chance to stand actually between you and Chief Branham at the announcement late December that was held out at the Reed Building, and both of you seemed very happy that that process is beginning, that building is coming down. I imagine both from a public safety standpoint as well as from the safety of the men and women serving underneath you, you're incredibly happy that process is beginning to move.
We're glad to see it fenced, gated, and the problems are being alleviated, absolutely, or mitigated. It has been not only an eyesore, but it's been definitely a safety hazard for the public, and it became a very popular spot for young people, and those things are very dangerous.
When that building comes down, is there another one, obviously not that tall, not that expansive, but is there another building in the community that is causing you all those type of problems that you need to keep an eye on if the community is not aware of?
No, none that I'm aware of. I mean, down on North E, we have a lot of large semi-shuttered parts of buildings being used, and those are always a concern because they're very difficult to deal with if they do catch on fire. We've got a large, very effective fire department, but those buildings will tax anyone's resources if we were to have a fire.
Okay. Let's start this by finding out a little bit about you, your history with the fire department. Personally, you can tell us what you want us to know, but particularly your years with the fire department working through. Give us a little bit of background.
Sure. I came on in 1984. I've been a firefighter. This is my 34th year. In my 12th year, I went up as assistant chief in 1996 and served there through 2000. And 2000, I was appointed as battalion chief, which actually is a reduction, but it's a prime job if you like and tactics, and you're a tactician and you like the game of chess, because mitigating scenes is a lot like that. And you're setting a command vehicle, and you're directing the men, and you're taking chaos and organizing it into small pieces in order to mitigate. and I enjoyed that part of the fire service, and so I did that for 14 years. And then most recently, in 2013, in the absence of a chief, I kind of stepped up and started filling in that role for about a year and a half, and then in March of 14, I was officially appointed by Mayor Hutton as chief of the department.
Okay. What is the complement of Richmond's fire department? We hear every year about the Richmond Police Department. We know that this coming year they're budgeted for 78 officers. They're now at 76, about as close as they've ever been. We don't really hear a lot in the way of numbers and statistics of the makeup of the Richmond Fire Department in that same way. What is the complement now?
Well, fully staffed, we're at 85 members, but that includes our staff. So we have approximately 78 members on the line, active firefighters.
And that's the number that you have right now, or
That
are you
is-
like the
that is
police
our
department
goal.
always trying to
Sure.
fill?
It used to not be a problem, but that has changed. Right now, we are 9 members down.
Wow.
I have 3 in the works of being hired right now, and I can't explain all the differences. We're working on that. We're always thinking about that, why we're not getting the applicants we used to, because used to we had a hiring list of 15 that was always intact, that we hired from, that was ranked. And usually when we'd do a hiring process, it lasted for 2 years, and we would have anywhere from 200 to 300 applicants. And today we have an open process that anytime someone walks through the door, they can apply. We have ran approximately 2 formal hiring processes annually with very limited results.
That's the same thing again, the police department is saying. What has changed in your mind about the application process, the requirements, whatever it might be that's keeping people from wanting to be firefighters?
Eric, I really can't answer that. I can only say that we've added requirements that are very stiff, and police and fire requirements are very similar up to a point until you get to the education point where the police department has an academy. So when you come on, they'll send you off in the first year. You're basically training to get all the knowledge and the skills you need to do the job. In the fire department, about 22 years ago, we added the requirement of EMT to our requirements. So you have to come on as an emergency medical technician. And at that point, we started seeing that we weren't hiring locally anymore because there's not a great reason for Richmond youth to decide they want to be EMTs. So we've tried to fix that through some education at the high school that we've added, and that's a long-term fix. It's not a short-term fix, because you have to be 21 to apply for the fire department. So looking through that program, which I can explain further later if you'd like, the high school program, we have an adult EMT class that we put on annually if we have enough interest, and we have an instructor for that. And just most recently, we just started working this week on actually removing the EMT as an absolute requirement to apply. And we're going to have a point system, which will still prefer paramedics and EMTs that apply, but it'll give our citizens and the young people in Richmond the opportunity to apply without their EMT, and then we will give that to them in their first year at the, right now we're targeting the Ohio Fire Academy because it's a much shorter course than the one we give.
Okay. Why remove that? If it was put in 22 years ago, there was a reason for that at that time.
Yes, because in order to fulfill our new mission, 22 years ago we started the plan toward moving into EMS. And that really started 34 years ago because in 1984 I was in the first class of EMTs for the Richmond Fire Department. And it always was a goal after that to be able to use that skill set to help the public, save lives and property. That's our mission. And we can affect a lot more through EMS as far as saving lives than from any other mission that we have. And so always having that in the back of my mind, we actually started in 2000 the plan to take over transport in the city of Richmond. Now, not all those things always survive political change. And that was one of the casualties of political change and change of chiefs. And right or wrong, it's irrelevant. It's just people with different mindsets, different goals for the department. And so I looked back and I saw where the reduction in applicants started back in those days. And we've looked at a lot of other things, but one thing I can fix is the requirement for EMT, if that is holding up someone from within Richmond applying. Because obviously we want to fit the demographics of the community we serve. That's a healthy department.
Okay.
And right now we do not do that. And the high school program is designed to give local youth the opportunity to get their firefighter 1 and 2, their EMT. And in the long run, we think that's going to help us. But it's one of those things, let's try all things. And so in doing this, there'll be a different pay grade for the people that come in without the education, because obviously it's a cost factor in giving them that education.
Okay.
And that probationary pay will be reduced by the amount of the education, and we'll send them off and make sure they get that education.
Okay. There's a lot to go through there that we're going to go through. You're watching In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11, having a chance to speak with Richmond Fire Department Chief Jerry Purcell. If you'd like to ask a question about the fire department, about the career path maybe you want to be and you want to know what the requirements are, you can give us a call, 973-8587. I have to cheat and read it off the screen. It's been a while since we've done that. We're also taking your questions via Twitter or email at wctv@iue.edu. So feel free to give us a call or send your question via Twitter. Let's start with the education of the high school. Because obviously there is an interest, if at all possible, in both the police department and the fire department, as you mentioned, to have people who grew up here stay and remain on your force. Those people tend to generally care more about the community. They've got friends here, they've got family here. The course at the high school started 3 years ago?
3 years ago, yes.
What's the process that they go through? And they start, I think, junior year or sophomore year?
Junior year, they start and that class offers firefighter 1 and 2 and hazardous materials. It's the same thing we give our first year firefighters. If they're successful in that year and they want to continue, the senior year we give them their EMT certification training. Now they have to be 18 to take the certification test for the state. So we help them through that process and get them certified. If they're successful through that, then there's a number of things they can do. A few of them have gone on to college, in fact, on scholarships, and studied fire science. Others have gone to work for private EMS providers, and then there's those who stay with us. And what we do, they can't apply for the fire department until 21 years of age. Mm-hmm. So what we've done there is we have a non-emergency side in our department. We call them transfers, non-emergency transfers. And we'll hire those young people for the 3 years that they're waiting to apply, and as a part-time employee. And at that same time, we're willing to pay for their paramedic training if they want to do that prior to getting on the department. That's not a requirement at the time of application on department paramedicine, but we do prefer it. Okay. It's a very extensive and difficult process when you're working full-time at the fire department.
How many of your members now are paramedics?
Boy, you asked me one, I'd have to
take
my shoes off. We just had 4 certified. And prior to that, I believe we had 8. So I think we have 12. And don't quote me on it, but I believe we have 12 paramedics right now.
That is a process that you just mentioned you're trying to change. You've just had a class graduate. I think we've got a picture of some of the folks that just came through that class. They looked tired when they were done. They looked incredibly happy when they were done. There were a number of, the picture of at the ceremony that was held actually in Indianapolis. There were a few other area fire departments represented, but who is this class through, and how did you select that group to work with?
Well, at this time, applicants sign a agreement with us when they come on. If they're not paramedics, that within 5 years they have to become paramedics. So the more senior of that group of employees we've hired gets the opportunity to go first, and that's how this group was selected. We sent 6 people to this class. We're going to reduce that to 2 a year because of a lot of things, but one of them is a massive overtime expense. Each member, it's about $40,000 to $45,000 in overtime per student.
Wow.
While on duty. And the other thing we're changing about that is we're going to limit their work hours to 56 hours a week, including the 16 hours that they're in class a week, and that goes on for 14 months.
This class is going, you couldn't have figured that one out before?
I wish I would have, but I just saw the stress it put on them and their families. And so you know, we looked at that, and they were doing sometimes as many as 72 hours a week, and that's really not fair.
Okay. Go back to the high school students that come in.
Yes.
You mentioned that they can work on your non-emergency transfer.
As EMTs, yes.
As EMTs. Is that service part of where you were getting pushback from some council members? Because when this came around, the fire department was going into the ambulance service.
Yes.
There was some pushback, various reasons. The city going into business against a private company, maybe these non-emergency transfers, an ambulance is out of town when maybe something important happens. Was that part of what you were hearing and understanding? And for some of them, I think maybe the numbers didn't even add up.
You're exactly right, and I think it's for a number of reasons. Some of it's philosophical, as you know. As you mentioned, some felt that we were moving into private business, and that we, as government, that we're expanding government. Being a person that has been educating myself and preparing for this since 1984, and having gone to the University of Maryland in their prep class for taking over EMS, et cetera, called Staff and Command EMS. I understand it very clearly. I understand the reasons why. But sometimes something we understand very well, we don't explain very well because we assume people know, or people will get it. You know, and I think that part of the problem was my explanations were not in depth enough. But the philosophical differences on government, expansion of government, that's philosophical, and that's hard to change. But 90% of all EMS in this country is done by fire service. That's
90%.
90%. And this is what we thought was revolutionary in Richmond a few years back, or some people did, was actually that revolution took place in the late 50s and early 60s, starting in Miami-Dade, where emergency room doctors got with some firefighters and said, we're going to teach you some skills and give you some tools, because we understand if we can give initial care on the scenes that we can save a lot more lives. So this whole idea came from the coordination in Miami-Dade of a hospital and some dedicated firefighters, and that's where it all began, and that was in the late 50s and early 60s. So this transition took place to the 60s and 70s, drug on some into the 80s, and we just never took that road. And I think that it was so easy in my mind to see why we needed to be on that path. And it's the non-emergency side is odd to the fire service. Recently, the state union came in and audited what we're doing, because there were some questions about that. And their report came back that it's not common, but everybody ought to look at this because it works. So even from the standpoint of the union, and the union helped us in the 2000s, the International Union out of Washington actually helped us develop our plan. So like I said, this is something that took place many, many years ago that we were just a little bit late getting into, and we had to kind of be pushed in the end. In 2010, we closed a firehouse. We were suffering a real bad economic time in Richmond, and we were struggling. And at that time, I was a battalion chief, and I wrote a position paper and presented at a staff meeting on why we looked in 2000 into this and why we needed to look at it again. And at that time, I was kind of given the green light to start moving forward with it again. So it was a long process for us. It's, as a department, once we even started, and it's been a long process for us to take on these roles. But, when people talk a lot about, they talk about money. Well, that conversation I was kind of drawn into. But we're not doing it because of money. We're doing it because we respond in 3.5 minutes. As opposed to being on scenes as first responders, sometimes for 6 to 10 minutes waiting for the private provider. That's not a life-saving service.
Okay.
3.5 minutes is a life-saving service. And that's been acknowledged by the state when they awarded us ALS Provider of the Year in 2016, only 2 years into us taking over this service. We were named one of the top services in the state. We take it very seriously, and we're doing it, I think, in a very professional, life-saving manner.
Talk a little bit about the history of firefighting a little bit here. Does it look, you mentioned that you closed a firehouse. Are you making less actual fire runs now than you did 15, 20 years ago?
We're definitely fighting less fires than we did because of fire education through our prevention department, fire codes, new structures, et cetera. But we're probably responding about as much, which was about 900 to 1,000 runs a year when I came on the department in my first few years, and that has progressively gone up as we've taken on more and more in the role of EMS, to where this year we just broke over 10,000 runs.
10,000 runs?
Yes.
Okay. What is, beyond the numbers, talk about some of the advances, some of the changes in firefighting that you've seen take place. It's not as simple, obviously, as driving an engine up, pulling out a hose, and throwing enough water on it
Yes.
to make it go away. There's a science to this, and you mentioned that in the past. What changes, what things have evolved, and how has Richmond been able to keep up or not keep up with those advances?
Well, you know, and we'll touch on this later, I'm sure, but that's what Fire and Water 2017 was about, where we took the city officials and department heads, and we gave them a little bit of fire science class one night, and we fitted them in gear, and we took them into our live-burn chambers. But one thing is the training is better, especially with our new training facility.
Where is that?
It's down in the 1700 block of South 8th.
Okay.
A dead end there runs into RP&L. We're right next to the RP&L property. And but the main things that have changed, when I came on, we had rubber boots that came up above our knees, and we had long coats, rubber covered coats, and a helmet. And it was plastic. You know, it didn't have any real strong protective qualities like a helmet that you'd ride a motorcycle or whatever in. And that was it. And we had an SCBA, but it was one on a truck in a box in the back.
You had a weight?
Right.
You had a
in a back compartment.
SCBA,
self-contained breathing apparatus.
Okay.
That wasn't mandatory, and it was in the back cabinet. And if you couldn't hang with the older guys, they'd tell you, "We'll see you inside." Go, you know. And that was kind of the attitude. And we have changed to mandatory self-contained breathing apparatus. They're built into the seats of every firefighter. The gear is now totally encapsulating that the men wear. It's a pair of bunker trousers, leather boots, and coats that come down that you're not exposed. You have a balaclava you wear, or a hood that comes up and around your mask. You have your SCBA mask, and now we have helmets that rival those of motorcycle riders or any other safety helmet that they wear. So they're totally encapsulated. The good about that is the exposure is much less for them because of the long-term effects of the fire chemicals that we're in. And the bad side of that is they're so encapsulated, they just don't know how bad of an environment they're in sometimes. We used to know, because every time you fought a fire, when I came on the department, you always had a blistered neck when you came out because of the steam rolling down on you, and you felt the heat, and now they don't feel the heat until they're well into it.
We're seeing some of the pictures from this, and you invited, and it's just been a few weeks ago, I think.
Yes.
You invited the mayor, members of the Common Council, some city department heads to go through your training facility and actually go through some of what your guys go through. What was the reaction to that? And is that something that you plan on doing more often as time goes on? And is there any thought process of bringing citizens into something like that, the same way the police department for years has been doing the Citizens Academy?
Yes, on all of those accounts. But the main purpose was to let council, one of the things was to let council see what we had done with their support, financially, otherwise, to allow me to invest in that training ground the way we have and put in the new, totally state-of-the-art training facilities we have down there. So that was part of it. I wanted to also give the other department heads the opportunity to see what we do, and vice versa. I want to see what they do. So when we're having staff meetings, department head meetings, we better understand each person's role. Mayor Snow has built a heck of a good team, and we've taken one class together. I think there's plans to do that again this year. So we're building real bonds between the department heads, and I think that's very important. Without the other department heads and the help of the street department, RP&L, et cetera, I would not have been able to do the things we've done and accomplished, because they've helped a lot in getting a lot of this stuff done at our training ground and at our fire stations. But yes, it was done for two reasons. One, we wanted them to see what we do. We wanted to train them a little bit and get that experience, and the reaction was sheer excitement. The city attorney, AJ, went, and they said he had ninja moves in the flashover chamber because one of the flashovers came right at him. And they've kidded him about it ever since. But I would like to invite you to the next one, Eric. I think you would extremely enjoy it. But yes, we do plan on holding that annually.
I'm sorry. The voice in my head said, only if we can figure out a way to get our camera in the room. Yes.
Well, we have cameras, which we'll be glad to give you the footage of. We have three cameras that take the heat that we have all the time on our firefighters' helmets to build footage, so that we have a resource in the future in case we want to put videos together, et cetera, for the public.
Okay.
So we will be doing it in October every year. We're moving our memorial service to October as well. We plan on doing a number of events, and we're going to focus on October, which is Fire Prevention Month.
Okay.
So everyone will be missing our normal May service. It'll be in October.
I was going to ask about that.
Well, we always are kind of stepping on the toes of the police department, and that is their month for their memorial service. So it's just going to make the schedule a lot easier if the mayor's jumping from one to the other, et cetera, for the proclamations. Mm-hmm. So we decided we're going to focus on October. We're going to make that our month of getting the word out there to everybody, and doing the fire prevention, doing our fire and water event, et cetera. And as far as the public, we've got some ideas on that. It's very difficult to fit everyone in, because we've got to go through our reserve supply of turnout gear, our used stuff, and fit them in turnout gear that fits properly. Mm-hmm. And then we've got to fit their mask. The masks are actually fit test for each individual. There's different sizes, and they're assembled for that individual, very custom. So we have to go through those steps. So it'd be very difficult to do this in mass. So what we thought about is having a lottery for citizens. And they'll go online, that's kind of the way this is thinking right now, and they'll donate to their favorite charity, $10, to get in the lottery. What do you think?
I like that.
And then we will draw X number of citizens, and we will bring them in and train them with everyone, and it'll probably have to be a 2-day event. We are going to expand into some rope technical skills, such as rappelling, et cetera, from our technical squads, and some other areas that we're going to expand into in our Fire and Water 2018 this October.
Okay. Talk a little bit about, you mentioned some of the squads. Talk about some of the specialties. Police have their SWAT team and other things. Are there things like that within the fire department? Dive team, I think I saw on your Facebook page. What are those? What's the training like, and how do your staff decide who wants to do that or how they get to do certain things?
Well, it's voluntary at the moment.
All things continue to change.
We offer almost every technical skill set on our department. Some people have debated, well, at your size of department, do you really need to do that? Probably not absolutely. But I'm seeing with the younger generation, you have to keep them engaged. And one of the ways to keep them engaged is offer them the opportunity to specialize and to take the tech rescue. But we have a rope rescue team, we have a dive team, we have a swiftwater team, we have a hazardous material team, and we have a confined space team. So, and those are all technical rescue skills.
Okay. Additional training obviously takes place.
Tremendous
all
amount.
Of that done here?
Yes. Well, I say all of it. To be on the teams, all the training has been done here. I offered the gentleman, one of the promises I made to our department in my first meeting with the men when I took over as chief was that in the future, if you want to go to a national or natural disaster somewhere in America, you'll be on the front lines if you want to be. I'll make sure you get that training. And I have followed through with rope rescue training, confined space training, and brought it to Richmond. I don't know if people remember our guys. on zip or rope lines between trees and the top of the parking garage and rappelling over the parking
Yes.
garage. That was all part of that class.
Okay.
Some members of Task Force 1 Indiana came in to teach that class for us. Hazard material team we've had for quite a while, but we've also this past couple of years offered tech classes in hazard materials to expand that team. Swiftwater team goes up to South Bend. That is kind of the key place for swiftwater training. I don't know if you remember, they had the Pan Am Games there, and at that time they put in the course for kayaking, and that is now a great place to train, and that's what they use that facility for swiftwater. And then
We saw some training like that. It was up in South Bend a couple of years ago,
Yes.
and saw a department from Chicago up there doing some training.
Everyone from all over the country, they come and train there. It's highly recognized as the place to come for your swiftwater. And we'll have members go this year. We have so many a year that go. And then recently, 2 of our members have gone to the Ohio Fire Academy and taken structural collapse and all the other tech rescue that's very difficult to get around here, and trained with Ohio Task Force 1, which is one of the most active task force in the nation as far as going to disasters all over the world. So we've had 2 members go train with them, and we hope to expand that.
Nice. You've just added a couple of new engines. Wish I had some footage of them. What do these engines bring that, I assume they're replacing a couple of engines, or are
Yes.
these just being added
No.
to the fleet? What do these bring that were not part of what you had in your older engines?
Well, first of all, they're replacing 20-year-old engines. That's
Is that a standard life for a fire engine?
They were overdue.
Okay.
Frontline service about 15 years is the plan, and then about 5 years of reserve service. These trucks are done. When we pull them off the line, we will not be able to use them for reserve service.
Okay.
But just part of the casualties of the economic downturn that we went through, of having to be in service that long. But these trucks are what we would call a small rescue pumper, and that's by the design of the boxes. So that means that they will carry a light complement of rescue tools that we have not done in the past or designed the trucks for. These trucks carry 1,000 gallons of water because they're on the far north and far south end of the city, and they help the county a lot. So they carry a little bit more water than the central trucks that are mostly designed to work with our hydrants, because we have a tremendous water system in Richmond. But one of the also real good capabilities of these is that they can produce A or C class or A or B class foam upon demand. In other words, they have a foam tank built in them. Used to, if you wanted to do foam, we had a little apparatus you pulled out of the truck, and you put a 5-gallon can down, and you stuck a tube down in the can, and that's how you produce.
Sounds high tech.
Yeah, oh yeah. That's how you produced foam, and that was only either you could do Class A or Class B.
What's the difference, real quick, between?
One is used as more of a wetting agent. The Class A, the Class B, Class B, but the Class A is more of a fuel to put a blanket on fuel fires, et cetera. It's a thicker, it's just proportioning, basically. Now, they had different compounds in the past, but there's a new foam called Foam Aid that can work as either, which is one of the reasons that we made the decision to move into this. So we've put a 60-gallon foam tank on the trucks, and it's just a matter of the engineer pulling a lever to produce foam and adjusting what percentage to make it A or B class. We'll use A for wetting down as wet water after we leave us, or we get ready to leave a scene on our overhaul and things like that. We'll use the Class B if we're fighting a fuel fire or a car fire. And what's good about Engine 4 is its first response in at the airport. So now we'll have foam capability instantly at the airport. And some of the tech parts of the truck is that it is a hotspot. So any device will be able to hit the hotspot within 300 foot of the truck, and so now we don't have to have the cards and the computers in the truck, et cetera. The computers all operate off that hotspot, and the members can also use their phones. And they use a lot of fire apps on their phones, actually, for getting addresses, et cetera, as it comes through dispatch. So that's one of the additions on this truck that's pretty neat. That and wireless communications within the truck with the new Dave Clark wireless systems. So the engineer, they'll wear them when they're away to the scene. They'll take them off on the scene except for the engineer, and he'll go out to the pump panels, and he'll still remain in communications with everyone wirelessly. He doesn't have to plug in out at the pump panel. So that's just a few of the things. The trucks are state-of-the-art, and one of the neat things about these trucks were our old trucks, the the suspension, the chassis, everything on them was proprietary. Mm-hmm. And we had to order through a third party, and the parts get very expensive, so maintenance got very expensive. The new trucks are on a Spartan over-the-road chassis, and the parts are common to any over-the-road truck. So therefore, it should lower the long-term cost of maintenance on those trucks.
Nice. We've got just a couple of minutes left, and I'm not going to get this right, so you're going to have to help me. We were talking before we went on the air about emergency medical service, I believe. Mm-hmm. And you were saying that, I was talking about the paramedics and about emergency medical service. You're saying you're teaching that here, and the fire department is registered as an educational facility for that?
That's right. We can give credit for those classes, and our students do get college credit at the high school level for the classes we teach there. And yes, we have our own certification as a teaching facility.
Nice.
That's an interesting. What's a step toward trying to, in the long run, we would like to attempt to be part of the Indiana Fire Training Academy system on the east side of the state, and that's a long-term goal. And you have to have those, and they're something I would like to see happen.
How long a goal out are we looking? Is that 5-year, 10-year?
Well,
what kind of time does it take?
It would probably be 2 to 3, I'm hoping. We have met with the state fire marshal and have asked them to come down and inspect our facility, because they are going to name facilities around the state as state training, satellite facilities. Mm-hmm. And District 6 is the district that we're in, and it's the largest district in the state. And early on, we weren't real involved when they set up the districts and the training districts. So we did not receive any state money toward our training facilities. So I've kind of talked to them, and I told them, it's unfair that they're not looking at us, because we've done our own investment. This community has invested in itself in training. And I think they've taken that seriously, and they've put off at this point in naming a site until we can get them over here to look at what we're doing and what our future plans are. We are going to rededicate the site this spring. We have been doing work down there all fall and through the winter, and putting up some new fencing and electric gate. We're putting lights in down there right now. We're moving a hydrant in down there, so we have 2 water sources to meet NFPA standards. As you know, we've put in the flashover chamber in the burn building. We have the search building that we share with the police. And we have the plans already drawn up to build a 100 by 60 to 75 PT facility down there for physical training, and a 3-classroom facility adjoined to that. We're right now trying to work and start a fundraiser for the classroom part. I believe that we can financially work our way through putting up the PT facility in the near future, because that's also going to house our CPAT equipment, where we're going to have our members annually repeat something similar to the CPAT that you have to pass to get on the department, so we can make sure that they keep their physical capabilities up, and if not, we can help them make sure they maintain them.
If someone wants to be a firefighter, they're thinking about it, they've listened to you and they've gone, hey, the Richmond Fire Department sounds like it's pretty well up to date, ready to go. What do they need to know? For someone who's thinking about whether they want to or not, what are the 2 or 3 things you would tell them they need to be thinking about?
Well, they need to think about the fact that if they want to come on, they need to make sure and stay on the right path. The problem is that we make mistakes as young people and make mistakes in our choices, and there's limits to how much we can accept of those mistakes before they come on the department. Obviously, you cannot have a felony offense on your record. You have to be 21 years of age and not more than 36 years of age. That's the hiring window to get into our state pension system. But basically, right now it requires you become an EMT. As I told you earlier, we're changing that. Mm-hmm. But it requires a high school diploma. You come and you apply. Once you're chosen to go to the next step, you'll go for a background check, an INWALD test, which is a psychological evaluation. Based on that, then they will do a background check and a voice stress test. Once you get through that, then if you move past that, you'll move on to our state physical exam. Actually, there's an aptitude test in there before that, and you have to score 80% or higher in that aptitude test. But it's based on your ability to learn, not on what you've learned, which is an important key. Because there's always questions about the school system you came through, et cetera, and what you had the opportunity to learn. So what this does is actually has 4 hours of study in the morning, and in the afternoon you test on what you studied that morning. So it's testing your ability to learn. And once you get through that, then we send you for your state physical, which is a complete physical, psychological exam, eye exam, et cetera, in Indianapolis with Public Safety Medical. And if you pass that, then we offer you conditional employment.
Wow.
And then there's a year probation involved in that. But
I was going to ask, from the time that they're hired till the time that they're fully ready to go.
Yes. Well, we just had an applicant, and I wanted to say this because of your question, that when we asked him why he was looking at Richmond, because he's very highly qualified, and he said, because I've been reading about you in the paper and it seems like you're on the move. And he was excited about getting to be part of that. So that, I hope that's getting out there. That, and that's what I was saying about the tech rescue classes, et cetera, et cetera. It interests the young people to have those special skill sets and have the pride in those special skill sets.
Chief Jerry Purcell of the Richmond Fire Department, thank you very much for coming in and spending some time with us.
Thank you very much.
I very much enjoyed talking to you. We'll be back, have a conversation with Sheila Armstead about the Martin Luther King Jr. breakfast coming up and some history on that as we continue with In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV, Channel 11.
Hi, I'm Sherry Harlan, program host for Read Beside You. Join us in our next edition when we visit with Dr. Bandari, Dr. Cobb, and Dr. Jost from Reed Health Family Residency Program.
The residency program is a 3-year program in which the residents get training both on inpatient and outpatients.
Join us Thursday, Channel 20, WETV at 8 o'clock.
Hi, I'm Caleb Kellogg, voice of the IU East Red Wolves, and I'm inviting you to join me on Friday nights for Inside IU East Sports. Each week, we'll get to meet students, coaches, and others who impact the growing IU East athletics program. Watch Inside IU East Sports Friday nights at 8:30 on Wayne County's Education Access Station, WETV Channel 20.
Hi, I'm Tim Scales, the director of the Center for Entrepreneurship and the host of In Your Business, a television show where we talk to entrepreneurs. We learn about their business, how they started their business, where their business is today, and all the different things that go on with business. On our next episode, we will visit with Melinda Wilson, a local entrepreneur.
I mean, and it does it in different fashions, but it's touching lives in one way or another.
Watch In Your Business on Tuesday nights at 9:30 p.m. on WETV Channel 20.
Welcome back to In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. I'm Eric Marsh, Executive Director of Whitewater Community Television. Glad you're able to join us for this edition of In Focus. Coming up on Monday, it's the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, a day on, not a day off, as they say. And one of the things that has been a staple in this community for 20 plus years, not even really sure exactly how long, for as long as I can remember being in this community, a breakfast is normally held. Has been held for a number of years at the Townsend Community Center.
It's been held at Townsend Community Center, Holiday Inn, the old Leland Inn. Those are the places that I remember.
Okay, I don't remember it being at the Leland. I do remember it being at the old Holiday Inn, and obviously at Townsend. This year's event is going to be where?
At Reed Health,
Okay.
down in the lingo room.
Okay. We're speaking with Sheila Armstead, who is a member of the staff here at IU East in the Department of in the School of Social Work. And how long have you been involved with making this breakfast happen for the community?
About 20 years.
Okay. Who are some of the memorable speakers that you remember?
Oh my. Charlie Nelms.
Charlie Nelms spoke when it was at the Holiday
Inn and also at Townsend.
Okay.
There was a young man years ago, and I don't recall his name, but he gave Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech. And he was so empowering, sounded just like him. We've had Reverend C.T. Vivian. We've had many people who were involved with Dr. King during his journey. We also have had Barbara Cross, who could have been one of the 4 young ladies who were killed in the bombing. By the grace of God, she was asked to go downstairs to pick up something to bring back, and that's how she survived.
Wow. We're actually showing, if you watch WCTV Channel 21 tomorrow evening, it'll be the second week that we've shown it. We're actually re-showing one of the breakfasts where it was held in the Holiday Inn. Charlie Nelms was the speaker. Now Vice President Mike Pence, he was Congressman Pence at the time, was also a speaker. So that's airing tomorrow night on WCTV.
Oh, wonderful.
Talk a little bit about this year's event, what people need to know, and tell us definitely who's the speaker.
Okay. Well, this year it is going to be held at Reed Health in the Lingo Hall. Breakfast will start at 7. People can start arriving around 6:30, 6:45.
So it's a great social time.
Yes.
Sometimes you only see people at this event.
Exactly. One of the things that we're wanting to really kind of push, if you will, is community building. One of the things that I have always said is that we all came over on the same boat, but we just came from different directions. And this is a time for us to really come together as one instead of being, you're on this end of the boat and I'm on this end of the boat. It's time that we all came together. Okay. We're in troubled waters right now. And so in order to smooth out those waters, it's time for us to start saying, okay, you're my brother, you're my sister, and we have to support each other.
Okay. Your speaker is Dr. W.J. Kimmons.
Yes.
A little bit about his background, you know.
Dr. Kimmons is an author. He's an educator. He was an administrator. He's a veteran. He's a parent, grandparent. He's a community leader. For over 40 years, he has been involved within the community, within the educational environment, if you will. And what he has seen is that we've gone away from being a family. What we have done, we're more individuals. And because of that, our children are suffering. So in his line of work, what he wants to do is to go through and talk to people, not only families, but to students, to the schools, to government. How can we come back together as one? It takes a village to raise a child, and we have really gotten away from that over the years. And as we can tell through our educational system, looking at our children when they graduate or do not graduate, it's because we no longer are coming together as a community, whether it be local or federal. So.
Always have tried to be respectful of people's time in the morning with the breakfast. Starts at 7, is normally finished by when?
Normally around 9:30. We tried to be very cognizant of the fact that some people do have to go to work. So we usually come in and have breakfast, and while they're eating, we start about a half an hour or so, just to kind of get some food down, you know, and then we have the speaker come in and speak for about 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, depending on, you know, what's going on at that time. And this year we're going to have a couple more speakers that's only going to speak for maybe a couple minutes.
Okay.
But yet still, it's in relation to our community and our children's education.
Nice. There's normally a follow-up. Maybe for those people who can't do the breakfast, there's normally a luncheon.
Yes.
Is that going to continue? And where, when?
Yes.
How do people find out?
It is going to be, the luncheon this year is going to be at Mount Olive Baptist Church at 1108 North H. That will begin around noon. And what that is we have asked churches and individual people to bring different types of salads. And again, that's another way for our community to come together and to eat and talk about what can we all do. And again, Dr. Kimmons will be there. He will speak for a little bit, but mostly what we're wanting to do is to make this more of a community builder, as well as having a large program. Let's have a community builder session whereby, yes, Dr. Kimmons will speak, but what can we take from what Dr. Kimmons is saying in order to make our community, our educational system better than what it is right now?
How long does this breakfast take to plan? And how large is the group, or how small is the group that puts it together?
Let's see, we started out with 10. That's when I first started. And we have dwindled down, if you will, to about 3 of us.
Okay.
And we make it work.
If someone is watching us right now thinking
Give me
3
a
people
call.
to plan this community event is not a good thing, it's not building community, it's not helping us be stronger, where do you need the help? How do they find out, and how do they reach out to you?
Give me a call at 765-973-8534
Okay.
at any time. I'm more than open to hearing other people's opinions. What can we do? Because I can only go so far. And this is a community organization, if you will. And we want to build that community, but we can't do it alone.
Who or what is the organization that is putting this on? Is there an official organization that does put this on, that meets throughout the year?
When it began, no, not really.
Okay.
It is just called the Annual MLK Breakfast Commission.
Okay.
And what we have done in the past, this is really how it began, is that there were many students graduating from high school that did not have information regarding scholarships. Okay, so this was designed as a fundraiser, one, and what we do each year is we take a portion of the monies that we collect from the breakfast, and we have a foundation, Wayne County Foundation, and every year we have X amount of dollars, and we give out scholarships to students of color, so to give them that opportunity.
Do you all collaborate much with, I know Earlham College normally brings in a speaker, IU East normally tries to do something. Is there much collaboration between
There hasn't been a lot
and
of
that?
collaboration in the past years. However, that doesn't mean that it won't happen.
Okay.
And again, that's where we're wanting to come in as a community. Let's start that community building again.
Okay. Once again, the speaker is Dr. Kimmons.
Yes.
Breakfast begins at 8. You can
Seven.
Start arriving about 6:30. And this is going to be in Lingle Hall at Reed Health.
Yes.
If someone needs more information, we can't tell ticket price, entry price. How do they find that information out?
765-973-8534.
Okay. And how soon do you start planning for next year's speaker?
We're already talking. We'll probably wait until about March or April, and we'll start up. But we already have some ideas, but that doesn't mean that what we are thinking about will happen. If someone comes up with a better idea, we're open.
Okay. Sheila, thank you very much for spending
Thank
some
you
time
for
with us.
having
I hope
us.
the turnout at the breakfast is very good. Same for the luncheon.
Thank
If
you.
you're looking for some other things to do, there are a couple of other celebrations taking place. Earlham College has a keynote speaker. Joan Morgan is America post-racial? What would Dr. King say? That's taking place Monday evening at 7 p.m. in Carpenter Hall at Goddard Auditorium, and also here on the IU East campus on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Karen Freeman Wilson, who is the mayor of Gary, will be the speaker in Vivian Auditorium. You might have heard her speak when she was here for the Athena Awards. She was the feature speaker at last year's Athena Awards, and she is coming back to Richmond on Tuesday, 10 o'clock, Vivian Auditorium, and that's being put on by the School of Social Work. Correct?
The Diversity Committee, yes.
The Diversity Committee. Some other things that are taking place as we kind of get through this, just to let you know, there was actually scheduled to be a audition for the Shakespeare Festival on Saturday. That came out just a little bit before we went on the air. Those have been canceled because of the potential of inclement weather. So if you were planning on auditioning for the Shakespeare Festival, keep listening for more information as to when you can actually do that. The Centerville Library will be open on Martin Luther King Jr. Day on the 15th. The 15th, they also have their Builders Club for grades K through 6. That's from 4 to 6 p.m. On the 17th, the Book Club, the Post Mistress, and also on the 17th, Casual Crochet Corner from 3:30 until 5:30. Don't forget that if your not-for-profit organization has an event that you would like us to put on our community calendar, you can send us that information to WCTV at IUE.edu, or you can mail it to us, 2325 Chester Boulevard, Hayes Hall. We'll be happy to put it on. Get it to us at least 3 weeks before the event if you can, because we want to run it for at least 2 weeks. There is no charge for not-for-profit organizations to have their events placed on our community calendar on Channel 21. Morrison Reeves Library is having Positively and Healthy Workplace. It's a free workshop that's taking place on the 17th at 6:30. Also, Civic Theater is presenting their visionary production taking place, Souvenir, taking place January 19th and 20th. If you need information, you can check them out at gorct.org, or you can call the box office 962-1816. Painting, Landscape, and Still Life with Lauren Sexton, January 20th and 27th, 1 to 4 p.m., being put on by the Richmond Art Museum. If you need some information on those classes, richmondartmuseum.org or richmondartmuseum.org. And coming up, January 22nd or 23rd through the 28th is the Meltdown Festival, a lot of it taking place in the downtown and Depot District area, as particularly in Jack Elstro Plaza. The throwdown will be taking place, and one of the things that we particularly wanted to mention is the coloring contest, which is going on for children grade 4 and below. That's going on through January 22nd. Keep listening to watching Whitewater Community Television channels for more information on the Meltdown that is coming up. I want to thank my guests, Chief Jerry Purcell and Sheila Armstead, for being here with us. Next week, we'll have Phil D'Amico, as well as Harmony Glenn from Indie Feminist will be my guest. Thank you very much for watching. You can see this show on our video on demand site. Have a good night.
Hi, I'm Allison Zeidel, guest host for Access to the Arts. This month we'll be revisiting a conversation with Louis Rickey of Indiana Arts Commission, talking about the Richmond Meltdown event, and also a new exciting event called Palette to Palette. Watch Access to the Arts on WETV Channel 20 on Thursdays at 9 p.m.
You are watching Whitewater Government Television, Channel 11.